In this video, I'm going to answer the question, what is transactional analysis? Transactional analysis is a psychological model developed in the 1960s and 1970s by Berne. It's a model of how we communicate and suggests that whenever we communicate with somebody else, we do so from one of three modes of thinking. Berne called these modes of thinking ego states and labelled them as parent, adult, and child ego states. And whenever I'm communicating with you, I'm speaking from one of those three ego states, and I'm addressing you in one of your three ego states. The parent ego state is the one that we use when we're expressing familiar ideas in formulaic patterns, because the parent ego state does what it's supposed to do. It deploys its experience, it expresses its prejudices, and it talks without really thinking afresh about the situation. Just as children do, when we speak from the child ego state, we speak based on our feelings and our emotions. The child ego state does what it wants to do, and it expresses its emotions freely. When we speak from the adult ego state, that's when we express reason and speak in a deliberate, calculated manner that assesses the situation on its own merits. The adult ego state is characterized by a good intent and a respectful behavior. The adult does what it wants to do, but it thinks carefully about why it wants to do it. Clearly, if I talk to you from parent ego state, I can quite easily address your child ego state and get a response from you which is highly emotional. Think about the kind of behaviours we see in parents, because this is where the metaphor comes from. There are two. Parents sometimes behave in a nurturing manner. They take responsibility for their children and they look after them. And so if I patronise you and tell you it'll be all right and I'll take care of the situation, then I'm speaking from parent ego state and I'm encouraging you into the child ego state. But parents are also critical of their children, and the critical parent ego state tells children off. It tells people off for doing things wrong. It criticises them. That's not the way you should do it. You should do it another way. And of course, the child ego state receives the messages from the parent and can respond in one of two ways, just like real children often respond in one of two ways. Either they get angry and upset, they stamp their feet and they say, I won't do that, or I want to do this. This is called the freak child. It expresses its emotions in exactly the way that it feels that it wants to. It's a highly emotional state, and it's where our creativity comes from. So don't think that the parent and the child ego state, although often unproductive, are always unproductive. A team working together, having fun, brainstorming ideas is often in the free child state. But of course, if a parent tells a child off, the other thing the child can do is respond by correcting its behaviour and acting in a subservient manner. Okay, I'll do that. And that's the adaptive child. And it's often not doing that because it's the right thing to do. It's doing that because it wants to conform, it wants to be liked, it wants to please. When you do something because it's the right thing to do, that's the adult ego state. And of course, most good quality project interactions are going to be adult-adult transactions. Me speaking as adult, addressing you as an adult. When we look at how parents talk to parents in this model, we often see ritualized, formulaic conversations that do not share any worthwhile information. Often we're moaning about things without analysing the situation. This IT system is rubbish. Yes, it is. It's terrible. I wish somebody would fix it. The parent ego state does not like to take responsibility for doing things itself. Whereas speaking about the same problem in adult ego state, you might say something like, we're having this problem with the system. What is it we can do to fix it? And someone might respond, well, let's have a look at some options. Parents blame children, children appeal to parents for help, or they rebel. The transactional analysis model is a great way for you as a project manager to understand your interactions with your team and with your stakeholders, and interactions among team members and among stakeholders and between your colleagues and your stakeholders. It's a very rich model which offers a lot of insight, and it's therefore well worth studying in some detail.